You are tuning into Naphtali's New School of Thought, right here on YouTube. Naphtali's New School of Thought. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for news, politics, all truth and no lies.
Welcome to Naphtali's New School of Thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. Talking all the truth, so you can step inside the room. We're clearing out the shadows and the intellectual gloom. There's no gatekeeping here, no locks on the door, just a hunger for the facts and a thirst for something more. We don't deal in fiction, no lies or lullabies, no fairy tales to soothe you or the dust across your eyes. If you're looking for a dream state, move along the line, cause we're operating on a different design. If you wanna stay asleep, this is not the place for you. The comfort of the dark is a ghost you're clinging to, but the sun is rising high, breaking through the night. And once you see the truth, you cannot see the light. Welcome to Naphtali's New School of Thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. Welcome to Naphtali's New School of Thought, where the wisdom is heavy and the knowledge is taught. We're digging through the Bible, science and history, stripping back the veil and solving every mystery. So wide awake, moving, no more nodding off, no more hush hush. From the scrolls to the stars, it's all connected. Yeah, we're all woke. Class is in session.
All right. Most High bless to all of you out there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Those of you that are tuning in live with me right now, and those of you that are going to be watching later, I thank you so much for tuning in. It's your girl Naphtali, representing a new school of thought. And I just want to say most High bless to all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a quick live, but I wanted to come on and do a quick shout out to my new subscribers. Thank you all for coming on over and checking the girl out. I was actually on a program or another channel. And look at that program. I like to make fun of people who say that. But I was on another channel and I did a presentation. And Sci-Fi Fan 296, if you're still with me, most High bless. Thanks for leaving a comment and tuning in with me. But I came on over there and I did a presentation, and shout out to Denano. And something nice with Denano is the channel. And I was doing this presentation, and what ended up happening is I didn't get a chance to finish it. We all went to a nice little conversation, or I would like to call it discussion, about the information. So a lot of people did come on over and they did subscribe. So I wanted to make sure that I presented the information to you the way that I would present it to you on my own channel. That's why I have a channel, so that I can showcase the information to you. So I'm going to represent the presentation and complete it. And I do have a part 2. Like I said, I have an upcoming live with you guys on Monday, next Monday coming up, where I will be going further into the Caesarea Borgia, talking about Marduk, people's Jesus pieces, all that kind of stuff. Where did all that come from? We're going to be digging in deep with all of that. But right now, I'm going to be talking more about does Christianity have roots in Babylon, right? And Babylon the Great, who is Babylon, and all of that. This is very important. Why is it important? Because mystery Babylon, it is mysterious. And we all need to know who Babylon is, so that we don't follow her, so that we don't get caught up in her web of lies, so we can find the truth and follow the true path to who? The Most High, right? In Christ. So I have a quick clip. Well, let me get ready to present my presentation. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Up 1 second. All right, so let's get ready. Let's get started. I have a presentation. And let's go. All right, so does Christianity have Babylonian roots? Very important. Christianity is one of the top religions on earth, in this world that we're living in. And even though they say, to be a Christian is to be able to be followers of Christ. For some reason, I'm not seeing my screen, so let me go back and see what's going on. Let's try it again. All right, let's see. Now, there we go. There we go. Looks like we're sharing now. Okay. All right. So does Christianity have Babylonian roots? A lot of us know. So we all know the history of Christianity, but and a lot of us are breaking away from Christianity. I like to use Christianity as a stepping stone, but a lot of my brothers and sisters, a lot of my family personally are still stuck in Christianity. So what I like to do is I like to arm us all with historical information, not only biblical, of course, the Bible is our foundation, right? But I also like to use historical because a lot of people, the way they've treated the Bible as if it's solely religious, like there's no history to support it. Like you have to believe in it. And believe it or not, guys, there's tons of history out there. But the reason why they do that is to keep the children of Israel a secret, right? To keep it unknown. And so they keep a lot of the information that is out there unknown. So one major group in particular are the Canaanites. And that's why I always talk, you always hear me teaching on the Canaanites, because if the Canaanites are real, then that means that the children of Israel are real. And once we realize who the Canaanites are, that's when we're able to find out who the children of Israel are. So, and that's why I'm always teaching and I'm always preaching, literally preaching about who are the Canaanites. And one thing I noticed is a lot of my people don't really want to wake up to that fact. So let me give you guys a quick. So after I did my live video on his channel, I went on and I, was like getting ready to relax, and I turned on this YouTuber. He's a researcher just like myself. He's been around for a very, very long time. And if you guys have watched some of my old videos, I'm talking 5-7-year-old videos I've done on here, you might see him on a clip of 2 of him on here. And so he did a video on Gog and Magog. And if you guys know that I have a video coming up in the next couple of weeks talking on Gog and Magog, and I was interested in hearing his information. Now, what kind of threw me off was like his approach to Gog and Magog was completely different than what the normal Christians, what we would consider to be their doctrine about Gog and Magog. They usually would say that it's Japheth, or they'll say that it's the Russians, so there's many different ways that they portray Gog and Magog, but he went another direction. He went the route of the Amorite Canaanites. Yes, he brought up the Amorite Canaanites, and I was very proud of him and very surprised, because I literally was saying to myself and to my husband while we were watching it, I was like, hey, has he been watching my video? But the truth is, and I have to say this, is that these videos, although they're only 2 to 3 days old or 4 days max that he just uploaded, he's been teaching on this stuff for, years. These are old videos he just uploaded to his channel. He's under the weather right now. But the main thing is that when I tell you, you would think that the way I sound, you would think that I'm listening to him using his information. He's like, hey, somebody's using somebody's information here, but I promise you, I haven't come across this information until a couple of days ago. But I have a clip, because if those of you that are still on the fence about, how am I coming up with the information I'm coming up with? Well, guess what? We have this researcher here and other people who come up with the same conclusion that I come up with. So I have prepared a nice clip of his video. So let's get ready to watch. I'm getting ready to play it right now. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but although Canva has it where you can put the videos on here, they don't seem to have the sound. So I have it already set up. I'm prepared for it, but they need to work on that, right? But let me go ahead and play the video.
The devil made me do it. Sorry, that won't fly. God created you and me with free will. We can choose to accept Jesus Christ or to reject him. But the enemy has been throwing sand in humanity's eyes for generations. That's why the subtitle of my book is Satan's Psyops from Eden to Armageddon. We're going to connect the dots going back about 4,000 years to show you how the human accomplices of these gods have helped them in their campaign, show you how these clear and present, or have these people have been a clear and present danger to God's chosen people, Israel, and then we'll connect these people to Mystery Babylon of the end times. Now, meet the Amorites. The Amorites were one of those groups of ites. You know, the Hivites, Girgashites, Perizzites, Jebusites. Ites had to push out of Canaan to take possession of the Holy Land. The Amorites hold a special place in history, and they have been mostly overlooked. Why the Amorites? God called them out specifically. Genesis 15:13. When God made his covenant with Abraham, and he told Abraham, your descendants will spend time in Egypt, but they will return in the 4th generation, because the iniquity of the Amorites, the sin of the Amorites, is not yet complete. Ooh, what does that mean? Why are the Amorites so wicked that God actually times the return of Israel according to their behavior? Apparently, these Amorites were really scary dudes. They are known in history going back to about 2500 BC. They were known as warlike. They were nomadic. They moved their flocks of sheep and cattle around the desert of Saudi Arabia and Syria today into the Fertile Crescent. In fact, they were so scary that they inspired at least 1 and possibly 3 massive fortifications before Abraham was born. The last Sumerian kings of Mesopotamia, who ruled from a city called Ur, which on this map is right down on the coast of the Persian Gulf, or what was the coast then of the Persian Gulf, built a wall 175 miles long. Now, one particular tribe of these Amorites was in view here. This tribe was called the Tidanu. The Tidanu. They were mercenaries. They were warlike. They were scary enough that they forced the kings of Ur, the Sumerian kings, to build a 175-mile long specifically to keep them out of lower Mesopotamia. And we know this was directed at them because they literally named the wall the Amorite wall that keeps Tidanu away. Was certainly aimed at nomads coming in from where the Amorites lived. They dug a 230-foot canal and used the dirt from the canal to make walls on either side, which gave them a double-walled enclosure, defensive ramparts, and a huge moat filled with crocodiles to keep out the people on the other side. Mainly Amorites. But what was so bad about these guys? Okay, maybe they were just tough dudes because you have to be tough to live in the desert. Well, the Amorites founded Babylon. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about Babylonians, but Babylonian is a geographic designation. There is no ethnicity Babylonian. The Babylonian kings were all Amorites. Think of it this way. You could call me a Chicagoite because I was born there. But I'm actually German, Swedish, Welsh, English. That's my ethnicity. So when you say Babylonian, you mean Amorite. Hammurabi the Great was an Amorite. So since we are dealing with a spiritual war here, we have to ask the question then, what and who did the Amorites believe in? Who were their gods? Depends on where you were in Mesopotamia. By the time of Abraham, the Amorites had conquered everything in what is now today Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, and northern Egypt. All of that was controlled by Amorite kingdoms. Eastern Mesopotamia, we'll call that Babylon.
All right, so let's get back to the presentation. Okay. All right, so he brought up some really good information, and what I'm utilizing him for is just validity. You know what I'm saying? To know that these Amorites are not, these Canaanites, broadly speaking, are not these small little people that are hanging out inside the woods or inside the forest or the jungle, whatever you want to classify it as. That's not them. These are an amazing group of people, great in stature, very strong, very powerful. Group of people. And my job, and it's been for a while, is to try to implant this knowledge to make you, to take away what you've been programmed with, because there is a hidden history that has been obfuscated from us within this so-called Christian church. Okay, for the longest of times, they want us to believe that the children of Israel, or the small hats, and then the so-called Hamites are the people that are located in Africa, when it's the complete opposite. Yes, it's the complete opposite. The Amorites are the ones with the small hats, and the people that are children of Israel are the ones that are in Africa. Now, are everybody in Africa? Let's make sure I put this out there. Is everybody in Africa the children of Israel? Is everybody in Africa Shem? No. Shem's land has been invaded by a whole bunch of groups of different Hamitic tribes. We know that Egypt, or Mitzrayim, was there. We know that Put was there. We know that the so-called Cushites are there because they all wanted a piece of our land, as we saw. And even the Canaanites are located within Africa too. They all went into Africa, and we all know that from who? Not necessarily just from history, but just from the Bible. But we also know that from Josephus, as well as the extra biblical text in the book of Jubilees. Okay, so I just want to make sure I sound clear, because if I don't, people would take that as if I don't know what I'm talking about. So I want to say a big warm welcome to my truth seekers, to my dedicated truth seekers, to my independent thinkers, my critical and independent researchers, right? So I'm Neftali, representing a new school of thought, right? All right, so let's get into it. So we're in the end times, and this is an end times deception. So this is what my major point is to tell everybody that the Canaanites, who you think, who the so-called Christianity has painted this narrative that the Canaanites are these cursed people, a lot of them are, living very poor in Africa and all that kind of stuff. That's not true. What happened is, and I have to restate this because I have a new audience and new listeners all the time. I want to make sure you guys understand. What happened is that the Canaanites were to be Japheth's servants. However, all of that changed when the children of Israel came in. Because when the children of Israel came in, the Most High made a covenant with the Most High made a covenant with the children of Israel. And guess what? Due to the blessings as well as the curses of Deuteronomy 28, the children of Israel are the head when they are blessed, but they are also the tail when they are cursed, meaning they are the servant of servants, and then they even become bondmen and bondwomen, and they even become slaves. So the Most High knew, and Christ knew. Let's talk about Christ. He knew of this, so he wanted to warn his people, wanted to warn his children. And he said in Matthew 24:24, "For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." This is a very important scripture, because a lot of our so-called leaders of this so-called truth, the people who are supposed to be, in the so-called Hebrew Israelite community, so-called leaders of the Black community, or, leader of just people who are trying to come into the new truth, are still teaching this same narrative that the children of Israel are the cursed people that are in Africa. They're still teaching it, even though, as you see, we have others out here that are bringing out the truth. I just showcased to you a gentleman, like his name is Derek Gilbert, and he does informal speeches and teaching his lessons. He has DVD collections. They all combine themselves together. He's an evangelical Christian apologist. He's a biblical researcher, and they're all out here teaching historical and biblical narratives. And the only people who still are on this whole thing about Hamites and Canaanites being people in Africa are us so-called black people. We're the ones that are the main ones that are still teaching this. Why is that? I have people tell me in my comment section that if you believe in, like right now, I utilize history and I use sources, and they say if they got us wrong, then how do you know that they didn't get them wrong? Well, you know how I know that they didn't get them wrong? It's because I don't just rely on the historical narrative. I also rely on the biblical narrative. And if you really sit down and you read the Bible, tell me where in the Bible do you see the Canaanites serving anyone but themselves? Okay. They are always referred to, as we said in Deuteronomy 7, a great, mighty, powerful people. All right. The Most High had to send in, Christ had to send in what? An army to help the children of Israel defeat the Canaanites, right? Moses got down. They were afraid of the Canaanites. They begged Christ to help them in defeating the Canaanites when they were trying to get them out of the land of milk and honey. Remember, the Canaanites are the ones who had the giants. But what do I say about the seed, the very elect? I have this video. I don't think it's going to play, but let me try it. All right, guys. Pastor Manning, I have the video again. I don't know, again, why they have this feature and it doesn't work, but don't worry, I have it on standby.
But I believe that the real door that answered this question is my accepting what God said through the prophet and preacher of righteousness Noah when he said in Genesis chapter 9 verse 25 through 27 that Canaan shall be the servants of Shem and Japheth. And I accept that. And of course, it evolved into the Canaanites. I refer to them generally and broadly as Hamites. Became slaves in Europe, Spain, in England rather than Spain, and here in America. I've accepted that. God said it, and it's just Bible. You would.
All right, so a lot of you probably don't, if you do know who he is and probably don't understand why I'm using him as an example as the elect. A lot of you probably say, no, he's not an elect. But who this is, excuse me, hold on one second. This thing is moving. Who he is Pastor James David Manning. He is a big pastor in New York City. He still hosts a church in New York City. It's called Atla Church. And what's the big deal about him is that he's been one of the major proponents of going against the children of Israel, or people like myself who are trying to wake up the lost sheep. He's the one that's going against us, telling everybody, hey, don't listen to what they're saying. I've actually had a conversation with him a long time ago, and he's preaching against us being the children of Israel. He's letting us know that, no, we're not the children of Israel. We are the Canaanites. And he's letting us know that he's accepted that. So that's why I said to see the very elect, because this gentleman here, this pastor, this is what he posted on his page. He has over 101,000 followers. He's reaching 2 million views. So even though people may not agree, even though we are above him, we look at him as though that he is not an elect, but he has a great following and other people do. And a lot of people, he's been teaching and preaching for about 40 or 50 years. How many people has he been putting to sleep with this information of us being Canaanites, right? And we're trying to undo that. But the thing is that, like the scripture says, it will deceive the very elect, right? So in 2 Timothy 3:13, it says, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. So a lot of these evil men and women, okay, I'm not going to just put it on the men, but a lot of them know the truth and they don't care, and they are seducers, and they will continue to deceive and being deceived themselves. 2 Thessalonians 2:3, it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So there's a great falling away. We got a lot of people falling away out of the truth because of Babylon. And deceiveth them, Revelations 13:14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image of the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So it's letting us know that they would go by any means to deceive us. Luke 21:8, it says, and he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. So, let me go forward. All right. So, in Job and Psalms, so in Job 9:24, it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So this scripture lets us know that the earth was given voluntarily. The Most High and Christ gave the earth over to the hands of the wicked. So the people that are in charge are the ones that are not believers of who? Of Christ. Psalms 37:9, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. So right now, it let us know that in Psalms 37:9, yes, although the earth was given into the hands of the wicked, they will be cut off, and those that wait will inherit the earth. However, we have a lot of people out here doing the work of the wicked to try to make it where we can't. A lot of us aren't making it to the end, and we will lose our salvation, right? Unfortunately. But who is this? So what is this all about, and what is the job of the Canaanites? So the job of the Canaanites, specifically the Amorites, that's what we're talking about today. Babylon. The Most High left the Canaanites to be what? If you followed any of my videos, the Canaanites are here to test the children of Israel to see if we truly are followers of Christ, because we kept on failing. So what did Christ do? He said that the Canaanites will be here to test you, test your love, test your ability to see if you will truly follow me. That's what the Canaanites' job is here for. So what does it say here in Jeremiah 51:7? It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore are the nations are mad. So it says that they were a golden cup. So not only did it says that Christ said that Babylon was a golden cup in his hand, so he knows that they're out here doing this, and he knows the power of them. But the only reason why they have this power is because you and I allow them to have it. If you follow his law, statutes, and commandments, you would not be drunken of her wine. It says, Jeremiah 51:49, as Babylon have caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon should fall the slain of all the earth. So not only did Babylon cause Israel to fail, it also caused the whole entire earth to fall, to fail. That's how powerful. And who is Babylon? It's the Amorites. Now, I have a quick video. This is something funny. I want you guys to take a look at this. There's no sound to this. Yeah, he's drinking that wine, right? Who is this? This is Floyd Mayweather, guys. And if you guys have been following what's been going on with Mayweather, it's very interesting. Look at him. He's decked out in all this gold, his Versace. He got money at his feet. How do you think they got the children of Israel to go? You think they got the children of Israel to leave the Most High in Christ by just being outside in the bushes and trees and burning wood and incense. You think that's how they got us? No, they were a very impressive city. I mean, it's not city, empire. He said they got drunk of their wine. Look at him. He follows them, the small hats. And guess what? The small hats have now taken from him. We'll talk about him in another video, but I want you to see how this goes right along with that scripture. What was the scripture? It says, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore are the nations mad. So we see right here, a lot of these people, they sell their souls. Why are they selling their souls? Well, let's keep going. So let's talk about Babylon. I wanted to teach on Babylon. I'm trying to teach on Babylon because, like I said, if they're this powerful, not only did they deceive the children of Israel, who are the elect, they also deceived the whole entire world, the earth, right? Caused all of everybody to become mad. That's what happened at the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, hold on. Naphtali, the Tower of Babel wasn't that Nimrod, and wasn't he a Cushite? Yes, that was the Tower of Babel. But Babylon, so the Most High came in and he destroyed Babel, right? He tore that down. But Babylon was established by the Amorites. They came in later and they established it. Okay, they rebuilt it. The Amorite Canaanites are the ones that came in after Nimrod, right? Then after that was destroyed, then came in the Amorites. I just want to make sure I say that because people's minds are moving before they let people finish. And how do we know that? Because we have also historical facts. If you guys getting to know me or you're familiar with me, know that I always state that the Bible is my foundation, but I build from the Bible as well. I utilize history as well as non-pseudo sciences, okay? So right here, this is a historical source. And what does it tell us? It tells us that Babylon is the most famous city from ancient Mesopotamia, whose ruins lie in modern-day Hilli, Iraq. I'm zooming in for you guys more and more. It's slow. It's moving a little slow. So where is Babylon located? It's located in Iraq, which is Iraq, Iran, over there in what the Bible called the land of Shinar. So this goes exactly with what the Bible says. As long as it goes with the Bible, I don't have a problem with it, okay? So it says the name is derived from Bevil or Bavilum, which in Akkadian meant gate of gods or the gate of the gods, given as Babylon in Greek, okay? So it's actually called the gate of gods, okay? So this is pretty much the house of the gods. This is where all this whole thing, this whole religion, this whole belief system in these other gods came from. They came from the Babylonians, all right? That's why they're important, because if you're not followers of Christ and the Most High, then you're partaking in Babylon, which is the Amorites, who are the gate of gods, or the entry to the other gods, or the house of gods, correct? Now, this is also important. It says the city was referenced with awe by the ancient Greek writers. So the ancient Greeks, who we know about, and this is something also that I like to make sure I pinpoint, is that you hear about the Greeks, you hear about the Romans, you hear about the Egyptians, but why don't you hear about the Amorites? And when you do hear about the Canaanites or the Amorites, they always make it seem like they're this primitive group of people. That's all by design. That's all done purposely. That's why you have to rethink yourselves in the land of your captivity. And the people who so-called Christianity, they are the ones who are the biggest they're the progenitors of this false doctrine of teaching that the Canaanites were cursed to be the servant, are these cursed people out here in the land, because that whole covenant changed when the children of Israel came in, okay? But they know that we look at ourselves. They know how we think. They know how we move, and they play on our emotions. They play on our heartstrings. They know how we feel about each other. No matter how many times I try to bring this information out to several different people, they turn their noses up. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to have nothing to do with it. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why is that? Why don't you want to talk about the people who are who are the ones that's responsible for all of this? They don't want to talk about them. They want to label them under Esau. But Esau didn't start that. But anyway, the city was referenced with awe by the ancient Greeks. They reportedly the site of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So this was one of the most beautiful, this is actually one of the 7 wonders of the world, was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. They say one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, its reputation has been tarnished by many unfavorable references to the Bible. I think this is pretty interesting because it says that its reputation has been tarnished. So shout out to a lot of you guys out there that say, Neftali, you can't believe everything because a lot of atheists are the ones that are writing this. Yes, because as you see, they tell you that that Babylon's reputation was tarnished by the Bible. So they're putting down the Bible as the bad guy when all the Bible did was expose the actions of the Babylonians. Okay, it can't tarnish anything all it did was bring out what they did. But as you see, and we're going to see as we continue, how they speak on the Bible versus Babylon. So the Tower of Babel was called Emtemenaki, and we'll talk more about that when we get into our video on Marduk. But anyway, so I just wanted you guys to see that there is history on it. And guess who they say? They say that the Amorite chieftain Suma Umbum is the ones who created it. Okay, so that was one source. And here's another one. This is Britannica for my history buffs and my people who require some information, because people say, well, what information do you have to prove that outside of the Bible? Well, right here, just go into Google, just go into Babylon and look at the Britannica, and it tells us right here, Babylon was one of the most famous cities of antiquity. It was the capital of southern Mesopotamia from early to 2nd millennia to early 1st millennium. So there's an ancient Babylon, and then there's the Neo-Babylonian, okay? And the Chaldeans was the ones who were a part of the Neo-Babylon because they rebuilt it. Remember, it was destroyed, but who came in? So first the Amorites came in, they rebuilt it. Then the Most High came in, he destroyed it. Then the Chaldeans, or the Assyrians, pretty much the Shemites, came in and they rebuilt it. However, the Amorites have always been there. They never left. It says, though traces of prehistoric settlements exist, Babylon, developed as a major city, was laid by Mesopotamian standards. No mention of it existed before the 23rd century. After the fall of the 3rd dynasty of Ur, under which Babylon had been a provincial center, it became the nucleus of a small kingdom established in 1894 by who? The Amorite king Sumabum. So there it is. And you know that the Amorites are the ones that established this. It says, whose successors consolidated its status. The 6th and best known of the Amorite dynasty was who? Hammurabi. So let's talk about that. Let's keep going. Now, a lot of my people out here was telling me, well, those are all, sources from people that are possibly atheists. What do you have? Well, right here, this is from Biblical Archaeology Society, Bible History Daily. This is from a so-called Christian website. They tell you right here that the Amorites are the Babylonians. So the Christians, they know it. I had a Christian evangelical just teaching that at the beginning. You watched the clip. He knows it. They know it. But you know who's not going to tell you this? Your so-called Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters. The so-called Black Hebrew Israelites, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. They're going to plead. They're going to be silent. They're going to act like it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the Christians are out here. They got biblical websites. They're out here preaching and teaching. They got many different websites. YouTube channels. I'm not the only one that's teaching this, but I'm the only one under the banner of saying that the black people are children of Israel, that it's teaching it. How about that? And that's sad and unfortunate. So here's another source, and I want you guys to look at this. This is Babylonia. So there's Babylon, and then there's Babylonia. What's the difference, and why does it matter? Why is it so important? Why is it so important? Because history is important. If you don't know history, it is going to repeat itself. That's why we don't know. That's why we're always in the dark. People, everybody else knows this information, but we don't know it. And they take advantage of our ignorance. Or maybe they do know it. I have it's a saying called ignorance or evil. I don't know what they're doing. I have to look at them as if some of them are evil. I have to just say it. Because it's at the point now where it's too many people are bringing this information out for them to still be teaching these old lies that's been debunked. How about that? So Babylon is an ancient cultural region occupying southern Mesopotamia between the Tigris and the Euphrates, southern Iraq, and Baghdad. Because of the city of Babylon was the capital of this area for so many centuries. So this is tons of centuries, hundreds of years, thousands of years. These people have been in existence. But only people you know about is Egypt, Greek, and Rome. Where is Babylon? You know why you don't know about Babylon? Because it's not for everybody to know. This is hidden information. This is esoteric. It's not for everybody to know. They don't teach about them in school. If you do hear about anything regarding to Babylon, you're going to hear it under the Sumerians, which is Sumer. Or you may even hear Akkad, which is the Akkadians, but you don't hear about the Amorites. So they say the history of Sumer and Akkad is one of the constant warfare. The Sumerian city-state fought one another for the control of the region, and it rendered it vulnerable. So what does this mean that they fought for control? What they did is that they loved this so much that they wanted to be second, not first, but they wanted to be second in command. They wanted to sit at their feet, okay? Because this was a city. This wasn't just an empire. And then people say, well, Babylon was destroyed and other people came in and ransacked it and all these different wars took place. If you continue to read on, they'll tell you the Hittites came in. They'll tell you that the Katsites, the Assyrians, Elamites came in. They're going to tell you the Persians came in. But the thing is that you have to read between the lines and you have to have discernment. That doesn't make sense. If you say, well, Naphtali, if the Persians came in and they took control, you can't take control if you continue to keep their culture, their ways, pretty much, right? Their gods, everything. That makes no sense. What happens is that the Most High comes in and he destroys it, and then somebody comes back up and rebuilds it. But the thing is that they keep on they keep the narrative, they keep everything going. If you're going to be in control of something, let's just say right now you have a kingdom. If you're going to fight another kingdom, you don't take on that kingdom's ways. you bring in your ways. When you ransack a kingdom, you're at war with a kingdom and you want to colonize that kingdom, or you want control of that kingdom. If that kingdom is evil and you say, hey, this kingdom is evil, you don't take on that kingdom's ways. You come in and you bring in your ways. That's how it works. But that's not what happened in Babylon. Babylon is these people came in and they fought because they wanted to sit second in command to the Amorites, because that's how much control they had. And they wanted to be near them. Okay. And their god was Marduk, which is Baal. And we'll talk about it because right here it says, upon Ashurbanipal's death, Chaldean leader Nabopolassar made Babylon his capital, and instituted the last and great period of Babylonian supremacy. His son Nebuchadnezzar, we all know about Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Syria and Palestine. He is best remembered for the destruction of Judah and Jerusalem, 587 BCE, and the ensuing Babylonian captivity of the Jews. He also revitalized Babylon. There you go. He revitalized Babylon, constructing the wondrous hanging gardens and rebuilding the temple of Marduk and his accompanying ziggurats. So ziggurats are, when you see these ziggurats all around the world, these ziggurats, those all go to Marduk, who is Baal. And we'll talk more about him in my second part of this video, which will be on Monday. But right now, Nebuchadnezzar, a lot of you probably don't know, they keep it a secret. Nebuchadnezzar was a Shemite. He was an Assyrian. Okay. So Shem was fighting Shem. Shem on Shem crime. As usual, right? So let's talk about this importance and how what this has to do with us today. Because they want to make it seem like how the Egyptians, they want to make it like the Amorites don't exist, like how they say the Egyptians don't exist anymore, right? So a lot of people look at the Egyptians and look at the Amorites, if you are familiar with the Amorites, but how pretty much all these historical, like the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, all of them were ancient. So the Amorites, they did reign, but they all died off. Wrong. And let me prove that to you. So Hammurabi, okay, if you guys know, he is one of the most famous people in history, believe it or not, ancient history. Why does he matter? Because they say that he is one of the most famous lawgivers. He is the reason why we have law. But depending on who you talk to and what sources you read, they put him over Moses. They'll tell you that Moses is religious, but he is the one that gave Moses. Okay, if you depending on what source you read, they'll tell you that he was the one that inspired Moses, or that Moses didn't even exist. Like you said, depending on who you read. I did a quick Google search and I just screenshotted it. It says most famous lawgivers in history. The most famous lawgiver in history is Hammurabi, and then they put Moses. That's blasphemy, right? But that's how they do, because that's their king of they're still at, this is their empire. This is Babylon's empire. So what do you expect from them? Why would they put if the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, why would they put Christ and his people up there? They would put their people. You have to think of it that way. So let's look at Hammurabi. So Hammurabi was the sixth and best known ruler of the first Amorite dynasty of Babylon. Noted for his surviving set of laws, one's considered the oldest promulgations of laws in human history. Considered the oldest of laws in human history. It says, like all the kings of the dynasty, except his father and grandfather, Hammurabi bore a tribal Amorite name belonging to the Amnanum. Okay, so his name is Amarapi. That's his name is Amarapi, but they give him Hammurabi. But his Amorite name is Amarapi, which is the Amnanum. Okay. So right there, they're letting us know that he is very famous. However, a lot of us aren't going to learn anything about him because they don't want you to know about this. Now, the Code of Hammurabi is the most complete and perfect extensive collection of Babylonian laws. So that's where we get the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Now, when you look at this stele to the left, right? I mean, to our right, it tells us it consists of legal decisions that were collected towards the end of his reign and inscribed on a diorite stele set up in Babylon's temple of Marduk, the national god of Babylon. It says there's 282 case laws, include some provisions, prices, tariffs, trade, and commerce. Tariffs. Isn't that what Donald Trump is putting on us right now, tariffs? They're saying that tariffs came from Babylon. I wouldn't be surprised in other countries. Not on us specifically, but he's putting these tariffs because he's talking about, hey, you know, in order to trade with us, we're going to put these tariffs on you. But the thing is, it's not that it's on us, but it's affecting us because we're having to pay more. So let's make sure I say that clearly. He's putting tariffs on the trade. So who came up with this? They're saying that this came from who? Hammurabi. And guess what? Hammurabi says he accredits Marduk or Baal for giving him this information. Now, who is this sitting here? This is the god Shamash, the sun god Shamash, who is giving him the law. But Shamash was said to have told Shamash to give the law to Babylon. I know it sounds crazy, but this is exactly what is being taught in the what we would call the Eridu Genesis, or pretty much the Enuma Elish, which is the history of Babylon. This is their history that they wrote in the Enuma Elish, as well as the Eridu Genesis. That's all Babylonian. But why am I making another big deal about this? Because I want you guys to see this. Now, I wanted to showcase to you that according to Congress.gov, Since the beginning of the second term of January 2025, President Donald Trump has increased tariffs on U.S. imports from all global partners. So Donald Trump, like I just told you guys, is utilizing tariffs. And then when I did a quick Google search, it says King Hammurabi of Babylon included economic regulations that operated similarly to modern tariffs, price control, and trade regulations within his famous 282 law code. Now, this is, of course, AI tries to clean it up, but we just read that Hammurabi's code was what established tariffs. And right now we see Donald J. Trump is utilizing tariffs at this very moment. If that's not interesting to you, if you guys heard me speak before, Hammurabi's reliefs, his portrait, is found all throughout U.S. government buildings. Yes, U.S. government buildings. This image here, you guys probably seen me show you guys before, is found in where the House of Chambers. Okay, it was installed in 1949. This portrait honors Hammurabi for his foundational role in establishing principal law. So they honor him. So his image is found, and they say, well, what's wrong with his image being there? He's one of the founding fathers of lawgivers. So wouldn't it make sense for him to be in the House chamber at the U.S. Capitol? We also see that this image down here, I want you guys to see this one down here. This is Hammurabi also. And where is this found? Look at him. Looks very strong, mighty, right? This image is literally found in the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, those of you that know, nothing gets higher than the U.S. Supreme Court. Why is his image in the U.S. Supreme Court? This is all supposed to be fairy tales. Why is this man even, you know what I'm saying? Why is he supposed to be evil? This is supposed to be a Christian nation. Why would you put in a Christian nation Hammurabi, who is supposed to be the opposite, correct? Now, they say this image next to him is supposed to be Moses. That's not no Moses. That is Marduk. Okay? That is not no Moses. I need to stop. But as you see right here, it says U.S. Supreme Court, a depiction of Hammurabi receiving laws from the sun god Shamash is on the frieze of the south wall of the U.S. Supreme Court building. So not only is he in the House of Chambers, he's also found in the U.S. Supreme Court, and he's also found in the United Nations. This is the Supreme Court, and this is the image right here. This is it blown up. This is it at the top with all of them. They got all these so-called deities up here. This is the image blown up. They got the Egyptian Pharaoh Narmer. They got Hammurabi, who's right here. Now they say this is Moses, but this man looks evil and wicked. This ain't no Moses. They got all these fallen angels all around, all these different so-called gods all up here. And this is the room of the Supreme Court. And this is where the image is. Hammurabi sits right above their head because this is who they follow. This is not make-believe, guys. This is real historical. The United Nations. This is the United Nations located in where? The New York City. This is the entry. This is the image right here of the United Nations. They have the exact replica of the Code of Hammurabi located in the United Nations building. They have the whole thing. Go ahead, and this is the United Nations. They got the whole thing. Remember, I just showed this to you right here. Let me show you. This whole thing right here is located. This whole thing is located in the United Nations. Right there. This is an image in the United Nations, and this is on their website. And they say it was a gift. Now, some of you may say, hey, it says it was a gift. What's the big deal? Well, this is the big deal. This is the big deal. Because you know why? Because the 10 Commandments are not found in any of these places. No. Matter of fact, there are Christians that are out here fighting the real, there are people that not every Christian is, under the guise of these Babylonians, right? There are real people that do follow Christ that are trying to get his information out there, right? However, it says here, federal courts have frequently ordered the removal of 10 Commandment displays from the government buildings and public schools, citing violations of the First Amendment. That's interesting. Why is Hammurabi everywhere? Why is his whole replica of his code and law found in not only, the whole thing is found right there in what I just tell you, it's found where? In the United Nations. Wouldn't you think, to be fair, they will have this image here? This is what they were putting in. They were putting this everywhere. So wouldn't it be fair to put this right next to it? They'll say, well, we got the 10 Commandments. We might as, if they want to say freedom of speech, whatever they want to say, it would make sense, right, to have the 10 Commandments and have Hammurabi's code. But they don't want the 10 Commandments anywhere. They got rid of all the 10 Commandments, but Hammurabi, he's still around. It says here, former Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice. Now remember, the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice, Roy Moore, he was inside of that room and he was seeing all this, that we just saw that image of Hammurabi on the wall. He said he's widely known as the 10 Commandment judge, gained national notoriety in 1990s and 2000 for placing religious monuments in the state judicial buildings. His defiance of federal court order to remove the displays led his removal from the bench. So while he was sitting in there, let me go back. Let's go back right here. This is the Supreme Justice. This is where they sit right here. So while he was made one of the Supreme Court Justice, this is where Hammurabi is, right up there. So he was looking at that image. So he brought in the 10 Commandments. What did they do? They hurried up and kicked him out. He no longer gets to sit. That was blasphemous to them. How dare you come in and bring this 10 Commandments up here and then he didn't want to remove them. So what they did was they just took his seat away. Think about it, guys. But Hammurabi image is still there. But this is supposed to be a so-called Christian nation. Remember, in the United Nations, I'm sure he saw this in the United Nations building, the stele of Hammurabi, and said, well, can we at least put in the 10 Commandments? They said no, and they kicked that out too. They said the incident while serving as a circuit court judge in Gadsden, Alabama, Moore hung a hand-carved wooden plaque of the 10 Commandments behind this bench. He also routinely opened court sessions with prayer. What did they ended up doing? They kicked him out. All right, so let's keep going. So those the people want to sit around here and act like, why is Hammurabi matters? Why does all of this matters? Because it matters because they still uphold Hammurabi over the 10 Commandments. Hammurabi's found in all of our judicial buildings. And guess what? His code, the tariffs are still, and that's just one thing. All of his stuff is still being utilized to this day. So in Genesis 15 and 13, it says, and he said unto Abram, know of surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Genesis 15:14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. Genesis 15:15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, thou shalt be buried in a good old age. Genesis 15:16. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So this lets us know that the Amorites are the ones that are causing all the havoc. They're causing all the harm. And guess what? We just saw that Hammurabi, who is what people would consider to be a great ancestor, is still being venerated, displayed all over so-called United States. Now they say, hey, you can't have the 10 Commandments here, but it's okay. You can have Hammurabi here, though. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why is Hammurabi's code here, but Moses' law's not here? Because they don't like Moses. They don't like the Most High. So right here in Joshua 24:15, it says, and if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, the Most High. So what was going on here is that they were what? Worshiping or serving the gods. This was Joshua. He was saying, hey, you can go over there and serve those Amorites, but me and my house, we're going to serve the Most High. And that's why he says, if you can endure until the end, they're not playing any games. It's right in our face. You might walk by Hammurabi's image and you won't even know that it's him. They'll tell you that it's somebody else. They'll put a name on it. The thing is that we know because we're doing the research, and a lot of us are out here doing all this because we have to uncover the fact that in the Supreme Court, every time they go in there, they pay homage to Hammurabi. And it gets worse. Because Baal, who is Baal? So Baal is the god of the Canaanites, correct? Now what about him? So in the book of Kings, 2 Kings 23, it says, and the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and of the groves, and all the hosts of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them into Bethel. So in 2 Kings 23:5, it says, and he put down the idolatrous priests, whom the king of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem, them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to the all hosts of heaven. So what's the big deal? So we saw that the children of Israel were worshiping Baal. Baal is the Canaanite god. And guess what? Baal is the god that is in so-called control right now. So all of this links back to who? It links back to the Canaanites. That's what the important thing is. The Canaanites are the ones that are in control. If you're not following, where am I going with all this? The Canaanites are the ones in control. That's what I'm trying to tell you, specifically the Amorites. If you haven't caught on to that, I want to make sure I give it to you, because some people say, oh, what is the point? What are you trying to say? I'm trying to tell you that. And what else have the Babylonians done that we still do, that we utilize to this very day? Astronomy. It's accredited from the Babylonians. Astrology. So when you're checking your horoscope, when you're doing all of that stuff, that all comes from, what's your sign? All that stuff, that all comes from Babylon. The 60-second hour and the 60 minutes. The 60-second minute and the 60-minute hour came from the Babylonians. Mathematics, the writing system, the first writing cuneiform, architecture, they built great structures, the ziggurats, irrigation systems. They always accredit the Roman aqueducts and all that kind of stuff. No, you have to when you review history, who did the Romans learn from? The Romans learned from the Greeks, right? But guess what? The Greeks learned from who? The Phoenicians. And the Phoenicians are who? The Canaanites. Metallurgy. Remember, the person who, the inventors of iron came from who? The Hittites. Medicine, literature, and maps and geography. So these are some of the things that we utilize today that came from the Babylonians. Let's keep going. The 70 nations. What's the big deal about the 70 nations? So in Genesis 10, we talk about the table of nations. They said there's 14 descendants of Japheth, 30 descendants of Ham, and 26 descendants of Shem, which equals 70. Now, why am I mentioning that? Because later we find that in the book of Enoch that there is also 70 angels. So there's 72 nations in all, but at the beginning there was 70. The two additional nations were who? There were the children of Israel, Jacob and Esau. Those made 72. The Israelites were the only ones that had direct contact with the Most High and Christ, right? Well, actually, not the Most High, but Christ. Nobody gets contact to the Most High, but Christ. But the children of Israel had direct contact with Christ. The rest of everybody else had to go to an angel. That's why there's something called a guardian angel. That's where you get the terminology guardian angel from. But they all had to go to an angel, and then the angel would then go to Christ. But what ended up happening is that they started to worship. Yes, they started to worship these angels. That's where you get the gods from. There are these fallen angels that were supposed to be representations for Christ. But instead of being representations, they started to worship them. Correct? Now, when you look at the deity El, who is also, he is, they like to say that he is Yahweh or the Most High, which he is not. That's blasphemy. But he is the Canaanite god El. He is Satan, right? So the thing is that they say that he had, 70 sons in total. That's not a coincidence. That's just letting you know that he ranked over all of those 70 gods, or what we would call the fallen angels. Correct? They tell you right here that he was among the Hittites. He was the one that was a part of the Canaanites, the Amorites. Okay, this all again starts with him. And then who is his children? Baal. And Marduk, Marduk, who is Baal, was given the title king of the gods. And we're going to talk about that in the video from El, right? So let's keep going. So let's talk about Babylon some more. So we talk about the daughters of Babylon. When we look at the scriptures, it always talks about the daughters of Babylon. What does that mean? What that means is, again, and I've talked about this, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I'm going to say it again. Babylon is the progenitor, meaning they're the father. The rest of everybody started to follow along Babylon and became their daughters or their children. So that's why when you see the Assyrians, when you see the Chaldeans, when you see the Persians, when you see the Greeks and the Romans, all of them were followers of Babylon. They never took over Babylon. They just were followers of them. They were their children, or what the Bible says, their daughters. Remember Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 2. Who was at the top? The Assyrians. But they were not the in control of Babylon, because remember the Amorites, but they were a daughter, one of the children of Babylon, and that was Assyrians, which were Shem, Medo-Persians, Shem, Greco-Romans, not Shem, the Roman Empire, not Shem. We'll talk about Roman and the Greco, but we know that the Assyrians and the Persians were Shemites, correct? So the head of gold represents the Babylonian Empire. Now, a lot of people would say that this image represents what Nebuchadnezzar looks like, but I believe, and a lot of people say that this is the god Marduk head. When you look at the head of Marduk, he also built, this was his dream, but he actually built an image, a golden image, which we'll talk further about, of Marduk. So that this is probably what's pertaining to that. The next is showing you the empire. So we had the Persians come in, then we have the Greeks, and then we have the Romans. So what is this showcase? This showcases how different empires, even though they took control or became the face, Babylon always stayed in power. And I just want to make sure that we understand that Rome, which is where we get the Catholic Church from, always, the Catholic Church has continued, never stopped their worship of the Babylonian gods. And we get ready to get into that right now. So who is Baal? So Baal is modern. He is the ancient idols of the modern counterfeits. It says Baal is not just an ancient story. It is a pattern of rebellion that has resurfaced throughout history and still thrives in our world today. I didn't write this. It says from the altars of Canaan to the spiritual compromises of modern Christianity. Baal represents more than a false god. It is a spirit of a counterfeit worship, blending truth with error. I won't even say error. I'll just say blasphemy, exalting man's desire above the Most High's word and drawing hearts away from the living God, right? It says 1 Kings 8:21, how long shall ye be between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. So right there, it's letting us know that, hey, if you, just like what it says, choose, if you want to worship the gods of the Amorites, go ahead. But me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. That's what he said in Joshua. So right here in 1 Kings, it says again, There is always this compromise. It seems like people have an issue. They either want to follow Baal or they want to follow the Most High in Christ. Now, this is what's important because they're being more deceitful. So a lot of people don't know that they're by default are worshiping Baal. So that's why people like yourself and me, we have to wake these people up because they're being deceitful. Still, though, even when you do bring the information and the evidence to these people, they still choose to worship Baal, unfortunately, but it's true. It says the word Baal in Hebrew literally means Lord or Master in the ancient world. Now in Judges 2:11, it says, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served Baalim, right? It says idolatry, visible symbols, altars, statues, and groves. Immortality, the ritual prostitution and sexual perversion were often tied to Baal's worship, blood sacrifice. In its darkest form, children were sacrificed to gain Baal's favor. And the counterfeit authority, Baal was called Lord, but his worship always pulled authority away from the Most High and towards man-made religions. So he's the counterfeit. So everything that he's the counterfeit Christ. Everything that Christ ordains us to do, he says to do the complete opposite. So to love your children, raise your children, he tells you, hey, sacrifice your children. And, you know, and what we would consider to be today, which is maxed around abortion. He says to wait and to get married and have those types of relations with your wife or your husband. But instead, we have a lot of people out here committing fornication, correct? It's okay to fornicate. A lot of them are prostitutes. You know, I'm not going to get into all those other ones, but you guys know what I mean with the other extracurricular activities a lot of these people like to do. Now it says Romans 1:25, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the creator? They turned the truth into a lie. A lot of them this is what they did. They changed the truth and made it into a lie. So serve the creature instead of the creator, instead of the creation, instead of the creator. A lot of people are worshiping the creation, but not the actual creator, giving homage to the creature or the creation. So again, it says warnings against deception. Luke 21:8. And he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name. So we get ready to look into this Christian, our so-called Christ-like or Christ-following religion. Again, Romans 1:22-28, it says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into the image made like to uncorruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore God has always gave them up to the uncleanness throughout the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. All right. So it says 2 Corinthians 11:13-15, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed, whose ends shall be according to their works. So if Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, wouldn't his so-called followers be? So it says to be sober in 1 Peter 5:8. Be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So let's talk about the Catholic Church. This is from the Catholic website. It's moving on. Let me go back. All right. So is the Catholic Church secretly worshiping pagan gods? This is from the Catholic website because they are trying to be deceivers. Okay. That's what they're doing. So they're saying, hey, the Catholic Church, this is them upset. They said the Catholic Church has been accused of incorporating pagan elements into its practice and claims rooted in historical and cultural analysis of ancient religions. Critics point to the similarities, they say similarities between Catholic rituals and those of ancient Babylonian, Egyptian, Roman traditions, all the same. Okay, that's Pan-Babylonianism. Allegations often focus on symbols like the Isis, the day of worship, and the structure of the Bible, linking them to pre-Christian deities and practices. Historical events such as the Council of Nicaea are cited as moments where pagan influence were allegedly formalized into Christian doctrine. These claims are controversial, often lacking scholarship consistency, and require careful examination of historical and theological evidence. This article provides Catholic perspectives. Now, we're not going to read their article. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at their feasts, their holidays, and we're going to compare their days of worship to the Babylonian, and we're going to see how they actually stand up to it. So let's get to work. All right. Because they're trying to tell us that, hey, we don't do that. So Martin Luther, for those of you that are historical, know that Martin Luther already called this out. They had the Reformation back a long time ago, back in the 14, 15, 1600s, that he called out the church. The church was supposed to reform itself, the Catholic Church. However, the Catholic Church did not do anything. All they did was just change some stuff up to hide it more from you. What it said, they're going to keep being deceivers and keep being deceivers. That's all they're doing. So, Anu, I just wanted to mention that it's the god, the head god of the Babylonians. And when you do see Anu, he's always looking like he is, you may see this image a lot of places. So I may mention him. So I just wanted to mention him to you guys. Anu is also what people would call El. Okay. All right, so let's keep going. So you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and the table of devils. 1 Corinthians 10:21. So Mystery Babylon is a counterfeit system. It uses the language of the Bible to lead people into the rituals of the sun god. To get out of her, Revelations 18:4, we have to decode the biblical and historical text to stop walking blindfolded, to return to the original, unadulterated instructions of the Most High. We all have been lied to. You cannot put a holy name on a pagan root and expect the Most High to accept it. So here we go. So let's look at this. It's a nice graph right here. Comparative pantheons. So we have the Babylonian, we have the Greeks, we have the Roman, and the Nordic gods. Why is this important? Because right now, every single day of the week, you look at the stars, you look at the moon, you look at the planets, they all come from what we would call Roman or Greek gods, but they don't go back to the beginning, which is the Babylonian. So who is the sun god? Shamash. His equivalent is Helios or Sol, Apollo, which is the Roman form, or the Nordic god, which is the Sol. If you guys don't know who Nordics are, the Nordics are what the Europeans are, what we would call the Anglo-Saxons, what you would call the British, all of them, the Celts. That's the more modern. So you be like, well, that was back in Rome. Well, guess what? The Nordics, which is what we would consider the word pagan be, Wicca, all that kind of stuff, that comes from the Romans. They never let it go. How about that? For some reason, just like we saw Hammurabi is all located all up inside the Chamber of Congress, all in the all up in the nations, United Nations. He's everywhere, but they act like they don't still believe in these gods, even though Marduk, there we go, he's Zeus, Jupiter, and Odin. So another one, Enki, Poseidon, Neptune, Njord. We watch these movies. We see these people in our Marvel. We see they in our comic books, our cartoons. Our children are watching these cartoons. Our superheroes are named after them. Thor. Where's Thor at? Thor is, let me see. Excuse me. So we got Zeus, we got Helios, Selene, Zeus, Aphrodite, Hermes, Ares, Poseidon, Zeus, Hades, and Hygeia. They don't have Thor on this particular one, but I will get, nope, I'm sorry. He's a Nordic god. I'm thinking he's Roman. Thor is actually Nordic, but he's Jupiter, he's Zeus, and he's a dad, okay? And then we got Nergal, Hades, Pluto. So we have a what they call a planet, or what you would call a dwarf planet named after Pluto. So Marduk, who is Baal, he's Zeus, he's Jupiter, and he's Odin. So what is the big deal? Let's go back to this. So we have the Babylonian calendar. There is actually 12 months that the Babylonians had. And look at the Roman calendar. So they had these different gods, pretty much the same. They just changed the name. 12 months, 12 gods. Look at our calendar. So you look at let me go back. Look here at the Roman calendar. So we have Martius, which is Mars, Aprilis, which is Venus, Maius, which is Maia, which is May, and Junius, which is Juno, Janus, which is January, Decem, which is December. All of this is named after, well, you got Julius, which is Julius Caesar. So they took that and made it after him. And then you got Augustus, which is Augustus Caesar. But pretty much the months, these are the months named after gods. Same thing as the Babylonian calendar. Nothing's changed. So then when we look at our calendar, we still have January, which is named after the Roman god Janus, still giving homage to Janus. February, Februus, which is the Roman god. March is Mars, which is a Roman god. April is Venus. May is Maya. And June. The only difference is, like I told you guys, make sure we go back and you guys can review this yourself. These same Babylonian gods became the Greek gods, which became the Roman gods, which became the Nordic gods. Now, why is the Nordic gods a big deal? Because you're weak. Yes. Today is what? Today is Tuesday, which is Tyree's Day. It's named after who? The Babylonian god Nagal. It's named after Mars and Aries. And the Nordic form is Tyre's Day, which is Tuesday. Who did we say Odin's Day was? It's Wednesday. Who is Odin? Let's go back and look at his Babylonian influence. Odin is Marduk. He's Baal. Can you believe it? So every day you say Wednesday, you're giving homage to Odin, who is Marduk, who is Baal. Come on now, guys. It is that serious. That's how serious it is. That's how much we've drunken of their wine and become drunk. That's how much we are drunken with this lies, to the point where tomorrow is Wednesday. So every day you say Wednesday, guess what? You're saying Baal Day. Yes. Baal, Marduk, Odin, whatever you want to call them. It's a sin. Every single time you say Tuesday, which is today, you're giving homage to who? The god of war, Tyre. Okay? This is serious. Every day we say Thursday, it's harm. We look at it like it's harmful, right? We look at it like it's harmful because, I'm guilty of it to myself, because my daughter came to me and she was like, Mom, let's watch Thor. I want to watch Thor. We're watching Thor. We're watching a movie. You think it's harmless, but guess what? Thor is who? He's a god. And you may think like, well, it's Thor, but what does it got to do with Babylon? But guess what? Thor is who? He's a dad. He's Zeus. He's Jupiter. He's a god. He's a Babylonian god. And you're not supposed to be having these gods saying another. That's against the Most High to have these other gods. Freakus Day, Friday. Who is she? She's Venus. She's Aphrodite, and she's Ishtar. So every time you say Friday, we're giving Friday, it's her day. It's Fry's day. It's Freakus Day. It's Venus Day. It's Ishtar's day. And then everybody knows this. Saturn's day is Saturday, which is who? But we have to know to link it back to the person who started it all, which is Mystery Babylon. See, they tell you, oh, well, yes, they give you the Greek, which is Chronos. They'll give you the Roman, which is Saturn. And then they'll even give you hold on, let me start over. They'll give you the Nordic. Then they'll give you the Roman. Then they'll give you the Greek, but they don't give you the Babylonian. That's remember, that's the father. That's the one that's in charge, is the Babylonian. And you go back, who is Saturn? Right? Who is all these people? Shamash is the sun god. So every Sunday, you're giving homage to the sun god is Shamash. Sin is the moon, which they say Luna, which is more. So whenever you say the word lunar eclipse, we say the word lunar eclipse, that's a homage to the god Sin. Whenever you look at the planet Jupiter, you're giving homage to Marduk. That's his planet. That's Baal's planet. Is Jupiter, Odin. You look at Venus, Aphrodite, or you give it to Ishtar, Enki. You look at Poseidon, that's Enki. Okay, so this is very serious, okay? And not too many of us are breaking this down. And this is the most important. They say, well, you need to follow the Lord's statutes, the Most High law, statutes, and commandments. Well, guess what? They're not playing fair. You just think about it. Just in your month, your days, your year, it's all found with who? Babylon. So, your planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. All of them are named after so-called gods, which all link back to who? Babylon. So let's talk about these so-called holy days and so-called holidays, right? So we just saw that Christian website and they were all talking about, I'm sorry, not Christian, but Catholic website. Let me make sure I say this correctly. And they were all talking about, oh, they're talking about we're pagan. Well, the Most High has his feast days. He has days of celebration, right? Let's see how many did the Babylonians have. And then we're going to compare the Babylonian feasts, or not feast days, but holidays to the Christian church. And then we're going to compare the Hebrew or the Most High's days to the Christian church and see which one is worship, who's actually really doing the right job, doing the job of the Most High in Christ, right? Let's see. So he has the Sabbath, which is Friday sundown and Saturday sundown. Do they uphold that? No. We have Passover, we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the first fruits, we have Pentecost, we have the trumpets, we have the atonement, we have the tabernacles. He says no images, no idols. Messiah's birth months, we don't really have a birth month, but they give it to you and says September or October. They say the death of the Messiah, Passover, resurrection of the Messiah, 3 days, nights. So that's what they say. But what does the Babylonians have? Their first day of worship is Sunday. Who's holding that? Who's upholding that? The Babylonians' first day of worship is Sunday. So that's a X for Christianity. Since they want to get up here and talk about them being the Christ-like, you can't even get the day of worship correct. You're following Babylon, Catholics. Good Friday is a celebration, supposed to be the celebration of Christ. Where is that at in any of this on the Hebrew? Easter Sunday, they say it's for Ishtar. Christmas is supposed to be Christ's birth. We're going to talk about that, which they say over here Christ was born possibly September, October. Had nothing to do with no Christmas. Valentine's Day, we know that goes back to who? That goes back to the goddess Ishtar or Venus. Either one. So right now we see the so-called pagan Babylonian beliefs are looking more like what we see in the so-called this United States or the world and the Christian church. Now we have something called the Wheel of the Year, which is seasonal festivals, which is range of modern pagan. Now this is what they get into the pagan. This is where we get into the Nordics, the Celts, the Europeans. Who are they sounding more like? They're sounding more like Babylonians. The name pagan is Babylonian. They just took it and they just took away the word Babylonian. They just changed it with pagan because they don't want you to think they don't want to even think Babylonia even exists. They don't even want you to even think it was a real place. They want you to think all of it's just a myth, really. That all these people are doing all this stuff. They're just all doing this stuff because they just felt like doing it because of tradition. They try to make it all seem like it's fun and games when it's not. But this is the wheel of the year, and this is what they remember. Who came up with all of this? The Babylonians. They're the ones that came up with astrology. We have the zodiac signs, we have your horoscope and the planets, your pentagrams. All of that stuff came from who? Babylon. Easter. Remember we talked about Easter. Now they tried to, we just had Easter. It just passed away. I mean, it just passed a couple of months, a month ago or so, 2 months ago almost. And guess what? Right here, Easter in Latin is Pascha, Greek is Pascha, and it's a principal festival of the Christian church which celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. All right, so what does eggs, a bunny, have to do with Christ? What does it have to do with it? Now, if we keep going, the English word Easter, which parallels with the German word Ostern. Hold on now. Easter is Ostern. Who is Ostara? Ostara is the goddess, the Nordic goddess Ishtar. Doesn't that, when you look at that name Ostern, it goes with Ostara more than it does go with who? Christ. I'm sorry to say it, but they need to stop. But they trying to play us, but we're not going to be played, okay? We not. They're not getting ready to play us. What are you talking about? It's all in our face. We see that the word Ostern goes to Easter, and we see that Ostara is the goddess for Easter, and we know Easter is actually Ishtar, but they still going to tell us to our face. That's why they say they're going to keep deceiving and deceiving. Here's Astarte, who is also who? So Astarte was the great goddess of the ancient Middle East, Sidon, Eilat. Important Mediterranean seaports. Her Hebrew scholars now feel that the goddess Ashtoreth, so she is the goddess Ashtoreth. She's also the goddess Astarte, the queen of heaven, whom the Canaanites burned offerings and poured libations to. Now, she is not Ishtar, but she is the mother, so-called mother goddess of Ishtar. Why am I bringing her up? Because whenever people say Mother Nature, when you hear the people say Mother Nature, or you know what I'm saying, when they use those terms, the universe, when they use those types of terminologies, they're referring to her. Coded. That's code. See, that's code. So she's Mother Nature. Her name is Antum. So when you hear the word autumn, so when we go into autumn, that's her. That her name is based off of autumn. Her name is based off of Mother Nature. Nature, when they say this is nature, when they say that they're trying to not be religious, and they try to say that they're trying to be, those are the worst people to listen to. When they try to make it like they're not religious. But they'll say, oh, I don't say Mother Nature. I mean, I don't say goddesses. I don't believe in God, but they'll throw in Mother Nature, or they'll believe in it's nature. That's going back to the goddess Astarte, Ashtoreth. And then when I said the universe, that's the male form of it. It's not her, but it's actually the male form, which is El. So when somebody says, when people say universe, that's El. And when people say Mother Nature, that's Astarte or Ashtoreth. Okay, let me make sure I fix that. So Ashtoreth is Mother Nature, Mother Earth. When you hear the Mother Earth, Mother's Day, there you go. When you hear Mother's Day just passed, that goes to her. Because she is Mother Earth, she is Mother Nature, she is nature, she is all those things. She is autumn. That's her. So when everybody tries to say, oh, I don't believe in all that, I don't go into all that religious stuff, but they start talking to you about the universe. They start talking to you about Mother Nature, Mother Earth, nature. Oh, it's just within their nature. When they start using those terminologies, they're calling on to that goddess and the male form, which is El, by default. If they know it or not. So if you're using these terminologies, or if you think you're much more elevated and much more neutral, remember, the Most High is watching and Christ is listening. Okay, he hears you. If you didn't know that, now you know. Okay, just know, because the thing is, you can't come before him and say, well, I didn't know. So what does eggs have to do with, again, Christ's resurrection. So Ishtar, it was back in Babylon that they used to dip the eggs. They said they used to take these eggs and dip them in the blood of infants. That's why the eggs were dyed. But for some reason, they used to be red. Like right here, when we look here at the Orthodox Easter at midnight. So at midnight, they would take these eggs in these Orthodox churches, which is Christian Orthodox or these Catholics, and they would dip these eggs in red dye, or who knows, blood of a chicken. I don't know, right? I don't know what they're doing, but they would dip these eggs, and then they'll say that this is a symbol of resurrection and new life. That's what they'll tell us, you and me, why they do this. They do this. I didn't know anything about this, but this is Orthodox Christian church, but it's not for me to know. It's not for you to know. But they do this. They say, why do Orthodox Christians dye eggs red? Symbolizing the blood of Christ, the red color represents his sacrifice on the cross. The egg itself signifies the empyrean tomb and new life of the resurrection, a tradition going back centuries. The first red egg is often cracked, saying Christ is risen. This has nothing to do with Christ. He doesn't require any of this. You know who requires this? Ishtar. So when every time we used to dye eggs when I was a kid. We didn't get no red, but we used to take eggs and dip them in the dye. We all partake in these rituals, but they're making it more, I guess what they'll say, child friendly, more sensitive to us, instead of using the color red, or using a chicken's egg and not an egg of a crow, or using bunnies, trying to make stuff seem more innocent. That's how they're deceiving us, because they know that if you just pull out a baby and sacrifice it and use his blood, they know that you're not going to. They'll be like, oh, no, I'm not going to deal with that. That's evil. But if you use a chicken's egg and you dip it in some food dye and make a little Easter egg hunt, it's much more easier for people to accept. And hundreds and millions of people do this every year. Let's talk about Tammuz. Who is Tammuz? That's where the Christmas comes from. December 25th. It says, hear ye the word. This is Jeremiah 10, 1-8. It says, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For the one cutteth the tree of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen, with an axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it not move. They are upright as the palm of a tree, but speak not. They must needs to be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. For as much as there is none of like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. All right, so they're letting us know right now. So not be like the heathen, and be not dismayed. So don't be impressed. They say, for they take a tree and they from the forest and they deck it with silver and gold. And I have to be honest, I participated in this as well with my family. My mother took us out to this, what we would call a grove, right? And we picked, it wasn't a grove, but it was, a nice little place to go. We'll cut down a tree, bring it into our homes, deck it with silver and gold. Every year we would do that. And we didn't know. We thought we were celebrating Christ, but you're celebrating Tammuz. And what does this have to do with Tammuz? Because Tammuz is actually said to have been born on December 25th. That's where the day comes from. And as you guys see up here, I told you guys about Anu, who is El. This is the tree. The tree represents the tree of what? Everlasting or eternity. And we'll talk about that in a second. But let's talk about who Tammuz is. So it says pagan origins of Christmas. So there are churches that are calling out this stuff. I can't get mad at all the Christians, because there are. So they said there's Christmas was originally a heathen festival. Now it says originally. So I don't know if they're trying to say that they are trying to take over it, because the thing is, you need to just get rid of it. But they say it was a heathen festival celebrated on December 25th in honor of the birth of Tammuz. Okay. So who was Tammuz? This is a historical figure. Tammuz in Mesopotamian religion is the god of fertility, embodying the powers of new life in nature. In the spring, the name Tammuz seems to have been derived from the Akkadian form Tamuzi, based on the Sumerian Damuzid. So Damuzid and Tamuzi, his father is Enki, correct? All right, so he links to Babylon. His father is Enki. So let's keep going. So what does this have to do with the Bible? Well, the Bible actually mentions Tammuz. Yes, in Ezekiel 8, we have right here, it says, and it came into the pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house, as the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of the Lord God fell up there upon me. So this is Ezekiel talking, and he has said Christ was there. He says, then I beheld in the low likeness of the prayer. So he's talking about Christ, and he says he put forth form of his hand. So pretty much he says, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of inner gate that looketh towards the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoked to jealousy. And behold, the glory of God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thy eyes now the way towards the north. So he said he lifted up his eyes towards the north, and he said furthermore unto me, Son of man, see is what they do. So he's telling them, look at what they're doing. He said, even the great abomination that is the house of Israel committed here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, thou shalt see greater abomination. So he says, hey, keep looking. You're going to see even worse things. He says, he brought me into the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. So it was a hole in the wall. And then he said unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. So they pretty much locked themselves in this little chamber so that people couldn't see him. And he says, and he said unto me, go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So he said he went and he saw every form of creeping thing, abominable beasts, and idols of the house of Israel portrayed on the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men, there go that number 70 again, of the ancients of the house of Israel. In the midst of them stood Jazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and thick cloud of incense went up. Then he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel? So these are the elders. These are the elders, what they're doing in the dark, hidden away. He says, he said, do you see what they're doing? He said unto me, turn thee yet again, look at what they're doing. He said, then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which he went towards the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for who? Tammuz. There it is, right there. Tammuz. So every Christmas, that day is dedicated to Tammuz. And right here, Christ is letting us know not to be dealing with Tammuz. His name is in black and white. We don't have to interpret. It's right there in the Bible. You can't just be like, well, it doesn't say Thor. It doesn't say, no, it says Tammuz, which is this image right here that they decorate all over the wall. The children of Israel were worshiping this deity, and his birthday is on December 25th. And guess what? Everybody's worshiping. There's also this counterfeit, this so-called Mary, and the Mary and Jesus is whatever this image is. That's Tammuz and Asherah. Okay, remember we talked about Ashtoreth and all of that? The queen of heaven, the goddess of heaven, the mother, the Mary mother. So remember we talked about Asherah, Mother Nature. She's also this Mary figure that they try to pass off to us in these Catholic churches. So whenever you see her, you will see this is who it's all about. It's about Ashtoreth. Okay, whenever you see her, you need to know that that's Ashtoreth. That has nothing to do with the Bible. As much as they want to sit up here and try to tell us, no, That's nothing to do with the Bible. And Tammuz is the child. That's who this represents. Is and then a lot of you know Semiramis. That's another term. That's another name. Again, we also have the Egyptian form, which is Isis and Horus. We also have the Greek form, which is Aphrodite and Eros. And we also have the Rome form, which is Venus and Cupid. So whenever you see this mother and son duo, that has nothing to do with the Bible. This is hidden. All of this is going back to Tammuz, the Babylonian god Tammuz, and his mother, which is Ashtoreth. And that's what that's all about. Now let's talk about this tree. So we talk about the evergreen tree because the evergreen tree represents immortality, correct? So I have some trees out in my front yard, these trees, not Christmas trees, but I'm just talking about the evergreen trees. And these trees tend to not, what they do is they don't lose their leaves, so they don't die, right? So what they use this tree as a representation of immortality. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to receive immortality without needing the salvation of Christ. That's what all this is about. And then when you look at the word holly or Hollywood or holidays, it all goes back to the wood of that tree, which is the holly tree, which represents what? The false promise versus true life. It says the Babylonian system uses evergreen to promise immortality apart from the Most High. It teaches that you can have eternal life through your own traditions and magic, Hollywood. The truth, true immortality is not found in the tree that stays green through a cold winter. It is found in obedience to the word of the Most High. The synthesis, by calling it a holy tree, the system tricks truth seekers into hollowing the very word of the Most High, called an abomination. So it's called a holy tree, or what we would call a holly tree. That's where you get Hollywood, right? Hollywood, the Hollywood stars, which is the idols of paganism. The symbol that you got stars, which are idols. You know what I'm saying? That's why they have this whole thing with Hollywood. All of it all stems back. It's not a coincidence. All of it stems back to Tammuz and to the Babylonians. Now, the spell, Hollywood. The magic wand in ancient occultism, a wand is made of the Hollywood, what's required to cast illusions and bend the reality of the observer. It says modern applications of Hollywood is not a place in California. It is a global frequency. It uses stars, which are actors, and casting spells to project a counterfeit reality. When people watch a screen, they are being charmed by the modern descendants of the Babylonian magicians. Now, what do I have down here? I have a fresco. This is from the Minoans. This is an actual fresco. And what you see here is a goddess Ishtar in the middle. And the rest of these people are a melanated group of people looking like servants. And so the gods are always considered to be of whiter skin, always displayed to have whiter skin, and the people who have the darker skin. And this image is very ancient. This is from the Minoans, which is supposed to be the oldest Europeans in history. And look at how they have the women. They're serving these so-called gods, and that's why we look at a lot of our people, unfortunately, look at the lighter the skin or the whiter the skin or paler the skin, and they look at them as if they are the chosen people, because when you go back in history, these so-called gods had what we would call pale skin. And then if we go into a little bit more, we'll know that they are the descendants of them. So that's another story. That we're going to go into that another time. But I'm at the end of my presentation. Next Monday, I will be furthering my focus on Marduk because, again, they have tricked us. A lot of us look at that white image of so-called Christ, and they always think that it's something as easy as Caesarea Borgia. That's what people have taught. That's what's being taught in this Hebrew Israelite movement right now, is that Caesarea Borgia. Well, he looks like him, yes, but that's not who it is. It's actually Marduk, who is Baal, okay? People are wearing Baal literally around their necks. Baal is being put in our face. No, it's not the Pope's son. No, it's actually Baal. It's Marduk. That's whose image it is, and we're going to sit down and we're going to prove it. We're going to look at it, and we're going to try to wake our people up when they be wearing these so-called Jesus pieces. They burn these chains. When they look, people send text messages and say, oh, Jesus loves you, and they're using this white image of Jesus. No, that's not just a figment of their imaginations. They didn't just use this image and just made it up. No, this image actually has spiritual relevance. It goes back to Baal, just like Wednesday. We just learned, guys, Wednesday is Baal's day. It's Odin who is Baal. Every Wednesday we say Baal. So I hope you guys learned something with me. That concludes my presentation. I thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I just wanted to come in and complete this presentation for people to teach, to give some insight to our people who are still asleep. A lot of our people who are still asleep, they require a little bit more. A lot of us didn't require much, but a lot of them are still asleep. A lot of them just celebrated Memorial Day, which they say, oh, it's just a day to remember our, people who died. Just remember the deceased. It's so innocent. No, Memorial Day is a day to remember the gods. Okay, that's what Memorial Day is. The one thing I have to tell you, they make sure they pay homage to their God. You're not going to get them to stop worshiping their God. They got us to stop worshiping ours, but they're not going to get us no more because we're waking up, right? But I am going to stop my screen. And like I said, I hope you guys had some fun with me. I know I had some fun with you. This was an early live. I know I still will be going live with you guys on next Monday, and we will be talking about Marduk and the Caesarea-Borgia connection. This was just a part 1 of that. How about that? You said, so let's take a look at the comment section. Let's see what we got going on in here before I leave. You said, okay, let me start here. You said, Sister Natalie, can you share a link to the first video from the first clip you shared? Oh, yes, I can share. His name is his name is Derek Gilbert, and he has some really good videos. When I tell you, I've been following him for about off and on for a while. He's been making some really good videos. I was really watching him for Gog and Magog, but when I tell you, it's been some years since I came across him because he's been sick. But he came back out he started to, share some videos. And then, like I told you guys, I was looking at some stuff about, Gog and Magog, and he came up and I watched his video and I was like, whoa, hold on now. Has he, I had to say, has he been watching me? But those videos he's been doing, those videos are old. Those videos he put up were back in 2020. He did like 3 of them. They're back in 2020, 2000 something. He's been around for a long time. He said image of Canaanite Amorites on their wall. Yes. You'll be surprised at how many times we've probably unknowingly walked across Amorite statues and not even known it. When you look at the images of everything goes back to Babylon, which are Amorites, by the way. Again, let's make sure we clarify that. Excuse me. So everything that they say, they're very good at what they do, right? I have to give them, they'll tell us that these pillars are this architectural details. We look at the Roman pillars, the arches, and all that kind of stuff. They always say that that's Rome, or they'll give it to the Greeks. However, that didn't come from the Romans, and that didn't come from the Greeks. It came from the Phoenicians, who are the Canaanites, who are the Babylonians. Correct? You said Hammurabi is the real actor. Is the real ancestor. Yes, Hammurabi is. You said, yes, Canaanites are Babylonians, aka Europe. Yes, those of you that know, Europe is named after Europa, who is a what? Canaanite. I had someone leave me a message, and people have to understand the Canaanites are their descendants. They're not the gods. They're their descendants. They mix with the Nephilim, but they're not actual Nephilim. Okay, I hope I make sense. Okay, they mix with them and they are much more weaker. They're not as strong, but they're not the Nephilim. Okay, people want to say that they're the Canaanites or Nephilim. No, they had giants, but they no longer exist anymore. You said, why does she say you can't have access to the Most High, only Christ? Wow, blasphemous idolater. You really think that you can? Christ is, he's our mediator. What do you mean? I hope you're still here. I didn't see this. And those of you, listen, Christ is our mediator. Yes, you can't get salvation. No, you cannot get to him. If you think that you can, then shame on you. Why do you think you deserve? Or good luck with that. Keep thinking that then, thinking that you can go without Christ. You must be a Torah only or something. OT only, huh? Everyone had a false God worshiping problem back then. Nobody trusted in y'all. Hey, the thing is that a lot of us didn't even know. But the thing is now is with this information being coming out, you know, you start to see what Joshua was saying. If it's a lot of people say it's evil, Christ is evil. He's an evil God. Most High is evil. They're evil. They're evil. Why would if he's such a loving God, why would he allow death and destruction and all this on the earth? Okay, well, if it seems evil unto you to worship him, then don't. That's your choice. That's your choice. Good luck with that. Remember, as you enter the live, feel free to hit the thank you so much for that. You said none of you guys don't have a problem with this Christ crap. Okay. I gotta not read you no more. I'm just going down, but I see we have somebody in here that's like, you know, you're anti-Christ, right? So do you know? Okay, you're talking to him. So let me take a look at the comments a little more. You said Christianity has us playing homage to pagan. Yes, 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 yes. Christianity has us paying homage to what they call pagan, or what is called, I mean, they're very, I mean, you know, they say it's crafty, right? Very crafty, very, I mean, I tell you, the way they do things. Don't forget the Nordic alien race. Hey, Rise of the Israelites. You already know your girl is on it. Already got a video that we're in the works of working on for the aliens, because Donald Trump has been releasing out some of this so-called alien footage disclosure, and I want you guys to understand that they're not this what they call aliens. You know, we're going to talk about what they are, you know, and you all know who they are, right? Okay, Brother Admiral, you said yes, those pagan name days will get you every time. Yes. But see, that's why we have to have a savior. That's why we have to be saved. That's why we need Christ. Sir. That's why you need Christ, because you're sinning so much that you don't even know it. We're so full of sin without even trying. See, that's when things become unfair. The game is rigged. He says you shouldn't be using no other God's name, but you can't help it, because every time you tell somebody what day it is, you're going to use their name. That's just a simple thing. Just the days of the week. Think about other stuff, you know, and stuff that we don't even know about, that they have corrupted. And, you know, what'd you say? Thanks, Sister Bless. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. What'd you say? You cannot free a slave who has fallen in love with his chains. Hey, all this is to show we are still in the times of the Gentiles. Yes. But Curly girl, I'm going to just start speaking French. Everything in English is cursed. Oh, gosh. Spells. When you get into spelling, in cursive writing, okay, in cursive, we don't write cursive anymore, but you hear the word curse, you use curse words, you know, idols. I'm going to get more into that kind of stuff in the next video, but this was just part one, and this was just something that I was doing on the other channel that I didn't get a chance to complete. And I wanted to make sure people who did subscribe, I wanted to make sure I did do this video for them to see it, because I thank them for giving me an opportunity, even though I wasn't allowed to finish my presentation. He said, during the 1,000 reign of Christ, no day will be named after any pagan. Oh no, they're going to be down in, where they belong. What'd you say? Oh, you're here. I made a mistake and cut your name. Touched your name. You're welcome. Okay, you said most people don't even take time to find out who they're paying homage to. Well, again, to respond to that, I'm going to just go out on a limb for a lot of people. Like I said, everything is so messed up that they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's up or down, and that's why we have to be saved. So, I leave that to Christ to make those decisions. But I look at it like this too, though. Just like I was able to find the information, I don't know why they don't have it. And some of the times I just have to be honest, they don't want it. I find a lot of these camps, these leaders of these camps, I've tried many times to have conversations with them behind the scenes, and it doesn't even have to be in the limelight, right? Because this is not about getting subscribers or coming up off of people's names. This is about the truth. You have a big following. You get up, they get mad about, for instance, I just showed Pastor Manning, right? The pastor. They get mad at him. But you do the same exact thing. You turn a blind eye to all the information that other people bring to you. What makes you so much better than Pastor Manning? Pastor Manning's, I've talked to Pastor Manning. Many people have talked to Pastor Manning, and this man will sit up here and tell you to your face that you're a Canaanite. And you need to accept that. And not just to you and me. He's telling everybody, whoever gives him the opportunity, he's going to tell you that you're a Canaanite. But what do these campers teach? These campers, they teach that, well, guess what? We're not Canaanites. We're the children of Israel. However, those people that are in Africa, they're the Canaanites. They're just as worse, because that's not true either. And then if you really talk to some of them, depending on who you speak with, some of them would tell you the reason why we are children of Israel is because so-called Black people or so-called African Negro, the reason why we are is because Judah slept with a Canaanite woman. Therefore, we became darker, and the Canaanites were inherited into the Israelite because the seed of the father doctrine. You have to really be careful what a lot of these people are teaching us, because some of them will come out and tell you, well, yeah, the reason why we are Israelites is because Judah married a Canaanite woman. And since he is a Israelite man, the seed of the father, we become Israelites. Does that mean that everybody agrees with that? No, but I've heard that come out of a couple of their mouths to my face, and I was very outdone. You look at some of their so-called 12 tribes chart, all of their people that's on that chart, all of these tribes are all of lighter skin, or what they, lighter complected. Where did these dark skin come from? And some of them would tell you, well, the reason why they're dark skinned is because they mix with Hamite. So if they mix with Hamite, then you take the direction that either you, and then they take on, they believe in the curse of Ham too, which is the Christian doctrine that says that that the Christians say that the reason why Ham with son Canaan was cursed with what? With black skin. So they're teaching all this stuff. They're not too far from the so-called Christianity. They just try to separate themselves and make themselves seem like they're better, but they're worse, because they really are hiding it under a mirage. I mean, gosh. We said the Masons and the secret societies know exactly what the Christian holiday represents. Yeah, they know. You said by default, like sororities and fraternities, others say, exactly. They know. You said learning so much. This is quite interesting. You're welcome. I made this video for you guys. A lot of people already, know of this stuff, but with new people coming in, I want to make new updated videos. I've made videos of this stuff before, but they're, my stuff is kind of old, but I wanted to do an updated version of it so that people can come back and refer to it and use these, my slides to showcase to people in your family and your friends who are still Christians, who still celebrate Christmas. Maybe it'll help them wake up. He said Satanists do actual rituals with blood that represents fertility, but tells everyone else to exactly. Yes, they do. He said Cain, Nimrod, Esau, Pharaoh, Balaam, Korah, Jezebel, Antiochus, Iscariot, Saul, Tarsus, Simon, Magus. Remember to like. Thank you, Celia Ben. Thank you so much. Okay, so I see we got some Torah, some Antichrist in here. Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove you if no one else has. I'm kind of behind. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. At Corey is a boss. I truly appreciate it. Thank you guys. If you all can donate to the channel, you guys don't know. It takes a lot of work to not only do these videos, but also to pay for all of this stuff. StreamYard is not cheap. And the stuff I utilize, Canva, everything, trying to make the things look clearer, neater, appeal better, all these things. So I thank you so much. Any little bit counts. I'm also starting off with members too. So please become a member to the channel. I got some more stuff coming up. Really good videos. I got one coming up Monday, but I may do something on Friday. I'm thinking about doing something on Friday. So I'm trying to do more content, get more stuff out before Monday. So I got some stuff coming up. You said 70 nations with 70 sons of God. Yes, 70 nations. Yes, those 70 nations had angels. Everybody couldn't get directly to Christ, right? They all had an angel as their messenger. That's what angels were. They were messengers. And so these angels was there to help them, but instead they began to worship these angels. So people try to wonder, like, what happened? How did they get to, why does everybody, if these religions if everybody's supposed to be the same, why is there so many different gods? There's not so many different gods. They all just had their own individual representation, their own messenger, and they started to worship them. And then they develop a pantheon under El, who is Satan. And guess what? They all started to worship all these gods. Now Marduk, who was Baal, got the title of the king of the gods. So people wonder, well, what's so great about Baal? Well, Marduk, who is Baal, he got the title of king of gods from El. Okay. So you said the camps are not legit. They only trying to recruit men into their camps. You know what, Curly Girl? I watched the video, and I'm telling you, when I looked at some of their stuff that they had, like, when I couldn't believe how their views on women. Like I said, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Shalom to you, Walter Blue Ezekiel. You said, great job, sis. Please help. We need your representing on that verses with the females because Miss God Logic is coming for Israelite sisters. I think you would outdo them Christian sisters. Miss God Logic? I never heard of her. Why don't you send me a link to her? I'm gonna Google her, God Logic. So she's trying to come after sisters. We're good. Okay, I'll definitely be there. Is the Gentile Jesus not the prince of the rulers today? This variant of this Gentile deity is Baal. Has nothing to do with Christ. Okay. The thing is that you got to understand they're not as creative. The only thing they do is they just use what the Most High and Christ have already created, and they corrupt it. So, for instance, when he said plant thee a grove, they planted a grove, and then after that he said don't do that no more because they took the grove and they polluted it. So they don't come up with anything new. So if you see them using stuff, they because they're counterfeit. They take it and they just make it wicked. They don't come up with anything new. So there's nothing wrong with Christ. You said IUIC 12 tribes chart is wrong. They put Hispanics in there when Hispanics are a new breed of people. Hispanics came about in the 1700s due to slave trade. They are biracial people mixed. Yeah. And, you know, you got that from folk. Well, yeah, shout out to FOPE. Shout out to my elder Kona. Hope they, you know, they'll be back soon. They're working on some stuff. You said the Chinese say they are Canaan. Yeah, if you watch my video that I did just recently on the Sinites, the Canaanites, only thing is that they use the name, they changed their names, but China is Sino. It's just, I mean, but it doesn't mix with our language, but it all makes sense. Just watch that video. That's a good one. That's one of my goodies. You said Lady Logic is God Logic's wife. Lady Logic. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to get to I reached out to Vocab Alone for a debate, and just to come onto their channel too. Try to have a conversation with God Logic. And I didn't hear anything back from Vocab, but you know, I have been trying to reach out to try to have these conversations. And like I said, everything doesn't have to be on the forefront for people. Sometimes it's just to, you know, to have a conversation behind the scenes. But it's, you believe it or not, these people are so corrupted and this love, you know. But I want to say this: Sodom and Gomorrah was a Canaanite Canaanite city, right? Sodom and Gomorrah. And Lot's wife, she lost her life and her salvation by looking back because she felt so sorry for these people. And a lot of our people, unfortunately, are choosing, you know, these people over. This has nothing to do, you know what I'm saying? People tell me, well, how do you know that they're the Canaanites? It doesn't matter what information I give about the Native American Hispanics. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I prove, what they say. They have historical writings calling themselves Canaanites. They'll tell you and me, oh, that just means they're Israelites. Doesn't matter what they say, no matter what information comes out, they're going to tell you that they're Israelites because they love these people. And a lot of our people are going to lose their salvation, just like Lot's wife. Why did she look back? Because she loved them. She cared so much that she lost her own life. And that's symbolizing what's happening today with these so-called camps. And it's just, it's something to see. It's not sad to see. It's just interesting. You said the testament of the 12 patriarchs show, like you said, the 12 tribes married Canaanites. They hide the fact that these camps act pure. Well, not everybody married Canaanites, and we can talk about that. I have videos where I break down, where I talk about specifically how Judah did marry a Canaanite woman. Yes, he did. However, the Most High and Christ corrected the bloodline. If you look at what happened to his son, Salah, he became of the house of linen workers with the Canaanite woman, right? His line why wasn't that lineage? They say it's all about they preach the seed of the father, right? Well, here we have a prime example of why the seed of the father does not work, because Judah married a Canaanite woman. Salah came from that marriage. Why didn't Christ and the Most High choose that line for Judah to continue? Instead, they used Tamar. And when you read the book of Jasher, Tamar is said to be an Elamite. She is an Elamite, Shemitic woman. So the woman does matter, because if you think about it, he was married to this woman, this Canaanite woman. He was married. Why would he use the son of what people were perceived to be like a harlot? Even though we perceive it. People will look at it like she was playing the role of a prostitute. People would say she tricked him. Why would he utilize her children over his wife, who was Canaanite? Because the Shemitic woman matters. And that's who continued on with King David. Okay, so don't let them tell you anything different. That's why they don't want you reading these extra biblical texts. But you can read any other book. You can definitely read the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. I mean, you can read that. I mean, that's second to the Bible, or maybe even trumps it. Oh, and if anybody wants to, I'm sorry, I just been in here reading the comments, but if anybody has anything they want to say, again, I thank you so much for the super chat. And if anybody wants to definitely donate, please do to the channel. Become members. I have a lot of more content coming out. But if you want to come in and you have anything you want to ask me, or if you disagree with, hit the link. What'd you say? Let me make sure I'm here. You should apply to go on Dr. Daft's show and destroy them on religion. I applied to go on one of these shows, right? Let me tell you what happened. It's a debate show. I don't even remember the name of it. Oh, 1 second. I'm gonna look it up. But so it was a debate show, big time debate show. Tazariak was on there. I applied. I reached out to him on my Facebook page. We was having a nice conversation. They reached back to me. They said, "Hey, can you give me your YouTube channel?" And asked me what did I teach, and asked me for my YouTube channel. So I broke down to them, what I taught. I wasn't being, I let them know what I felt about the Canaanites and everything. And baby, when I tell you, I didn't hear anything back. So I said, oh, let me go take a look and see if I heard any. You go back and you take your messenger. Next thing I know, I was blocked. I went to click on his stuff. I was straight up blocked. Now, that's not even the bad part. That's not even bad. Okay, whatever, you blocked me, whatever. I didn't, like I said, I didn't do nothing to them. We had a nice conversation. Once I gave them the link to my channel, I didn't hear anything back. So I went to go see that I get, I said, well, let me check and see what's going on. I went to click on their stuff. I went to see if they even viewed it. How about that? Because, maybe they didn't see it. People are busy. Oh, they viewed it and then they blocked me. And then not even the next day, my page was restricted on Facebook for harassment. And so they also, I don't know if you flagged it. I don't know what you do. I've been on my Facebook has been up for a very long time. I've never received a restriction, never received anything, but I was stopped from making Messenger. I couldn't make any calls, receive calls from Messenger, and I couldn't make any. Very interesting dealing with these people. They get up here, they want to act like they care. They want you to debate. Now, mind you, here it is. This is called the Modern Day Debate. If you heard of that channel, Modern Day Debate, they have over 200,000 subscribers. And I reached out to them and I let very nice. And they pretty much blocked me. And this is what gets me. They don't want you calling them a Canaanite. They don't want you bringing anything up like that. They talk about, all this. There is no, everybody's one in Christ. But as long as you stay as a Canaanite, you're not going to get up here and teach us that we're Canaanites. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear it. They don't want you even. I'm like, go ahead and debunk me then. Debate me and put me in my place. Shut me up. He blocked me. He said Israelite tribes married every people around them. Some did, not all. That's in the book of Jasher. Yes, it is. That's in the book of Jasher. Yes. You got her YouTube channel right here. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. You said Amorites ruled Canaan, not Canaanites. No, they ruled Canaan. They were the head. They're the head honchos. And those of you that watched my videos, you know where America received this name. America did not receive this name from America Vespucci. Amerigo Vespucci, it received it from who? The Amaru Khan, which is America, which comes from Emirate. Oh my gosh, when you put it all together, it all comes together, right? You said the Moors calls themselves Moabites, Canaanites, like Drew Ali. They all are up there in the USA pushing for division amongst the Negroes. Well, they don't know. That's why it takes people like you and I to try to wake them up. You are Judith right now. Much well, thank you. I appreciate it. You said, I got it from you, the cyanide. Oh, go ahead and keep sharing it. Keep sharing it from the video. Exactly. Keep sharing it. Keep sharing his information, you know. Slow but steady wins the race. You said Captain Tazariak hates anyone who likes Africans, says LOL. I don't know why he's so obsessed with them. That's because he's not. This man, we don't know what he is. There's a lot of people who get up here and backgrounds do not even go back to Africa. And that's why they say that. Because if you really are from Africa, you wouldn't talk the way he talks. If you really have African descent, if you're a descendant of Africa, you wouldn't talk like that. You wouldn't put people down like that if you really are of the same people. And we have to look at him with the side eye like, we don't know what you are. And it's interesting, like I said, this man gets up here and says how much he hates the so-called white man, got white men kissing, got people kissing his shoes, talking about they don't get salvation, talking about how they're going to be his slave, all this stuff about these people, but they bring him on the channel. But once you bring somebody who's very educated, well-spoken, and have actual facts and talk about them being the Canaanites, they block you and then report you. Guys, it's funny. He said your last video about the Hamite Canaanites was interesting. Did you know that the Khazars had both white and Indian looking Khazars? Fulani wears a hat like the medieval ones in Europe. I'm going to be doing a video on all that. The Khazars, all of that. I'm going to be talking about the small hats, who they are. Get ready. You said most of them have an agenda? Yes. Unfortunately, they do. King David and Solomon, not pure Israel. Says who? They are Shem. They are Shem. I did a video. Check it out. It's a video. It's not a live, where I talk about the seed of the Father, and I talk about all of this. Tamar. I talk about King Solomon and his lineage. I talk about all of that, and I break it down, not just based off of what I have to say, but utilizing scripture. Okay. And I make it all into a nice video for you. It's not very long. It's no more than 20, 30 minutes tops, where I debunk the whole seed of the Father doctrine. I debunk it all. He said Fulani tribes were a big player in the slave trade. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. Why they lie on Ruth when Gad the seer tells it quickly about who she was? Ruth was a Moabite. I mean, you know, they said Ruth the Moabite. They have stuff on Ruth, but that still means she's Shem. It doesn't mean that she's you know, of another nation. So all that stuff that they try to, you know, it's a lot that they're teaching, but it's incorrect. And they don't want you to, and that's the thing, is they don't want nobody to talk to them about it. They stuck in their ways. And when you get like that, when you get to the point where you can't listen, and you don't want to listen, and you don't want to hear information, that's when you got to get down on your knees and repent, because that could be the Most High turning you away. That can be him. Okay. When people, you know what I'm saying, I had to tell somebody that, I'm like, look, if somebody comes to you with a presentation, and it is, I tell you, they didn't came to you with everything, and you still can't seem to hop on, then that means you need, it ain't you. People like to blame the devil, but that means Satan. I mean, that means the Most High and Christ. He doesn't like people that's lukewarm. What he say when you lukewarm? He said he'll spew you out. He'll throw you up. He don't like lukewarm people. And he don't like people that's cold. He only want people that's hot. So people got to think about it. If you lukewarm, if you got one toe in, or if you got one foot in and one foot out the door, he don't want you. And then what does he say? He will make you believe in it. He'll say, turn away from me and go ahead and believe in it. And then he'll make sure you believe in it. You got to really watch yourself. A lot of these people don't, like I said, that Sinai video, what more do you need after that? Okay. Just saying. When you look at their information about Moab and Ammon, that little bit that they have about people having Down syndrome, and that's it. If that's all it took for you to believe that they're Moabites and Ammonites, it's a debunked racist lie, by the way. And then somebody has actual historical references as well as biblical. You don't want to believe that. Well, then that's because, hey, you need to get on your knees and repent. You said they expect the white man's canon, but not other books. They actually harmonize the Bible with the Bible. Hey, they love the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. What'd you say? Which videos do you recommend we start off with if we want to get good foundational understanding of the lineage of Shem, and how all of it connects to modern day groups and people? Well, I have a lot of videos where I talk about Shem. I'd say Africa is the land of Shem. So I'm going to put together, just like I did with my Canaanites, I'm going to put together a Shem little series, a 5-part series, to put it all together for you guys, so you all can just go in there and you just watch it. That way you can see. Because when I went over there to the brother Dynamo's channel, a lot of people don't even know who Shem is. And that's interesting historically. When you hear the name Elam, that's a simple one, but they're Persia. So when people say Elamite, that's Persian. When people say Assyrians, that's Asher, that's Shem. When people say Akkadian, that's Akkad, that's Shem. When people say Chaldean, that's Arphaxad, that's Shem. So when they say the Chaldeans, that's a Shemitic people. When they say the Akkadians, that's a Shemitic people. When people say the Assyrians, that's a Shemitic people. And people say the Elam, that's Shemitic. Asherites, which is Assyrians. So you got to understand that people don't know that I've done the heavy lifting. I break all this down for you. Just tune in. Just watch my videos. We do the heavy lifting. You say we scattered in all the nations. They're Black, Japanese, and Chinese. I don't know about that. But like I said, he says that people hear his voice, right? So I'm not the person that's going to speak for him. He said, yes, a lot of people think only Israelites are Shemites. No, they're not. Shem is a nation. Israelites are just a small bit out of Shem. Small. There's other nations of Shem, okay? Not every Hamite is a Canaanite. And not every Shemite is an Israelite, okay? But are all Israelites Shemites? Yes. Okay. But yeah, so you have to think about it like that. But all right, guys, I had you guys up here for a while. This was just a live to complete for our newcomers, and for those of you who need a little bit more information about the roots of Christianity. I can't wait to see you guys again on Monday, where we're going to be going into Marduk, where we're going to be going into the real deal, Holyfield. We're getting into Marduk Bale. Let me say. So you said, so are they supposed to marry into tribes or Shem? They're supposed to marry into their own tribes, but at least Shem at the bare minimum. How about that? Supposed to marry within your own tribe, but that's why he made tribes. Okay. If they sit up here and they talk about all that stuff doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, then why did he make it? Why did Christ make it? Why do we have tribes? If we all intermarry within each other, then there won't be any tribes. If we all married outside of our tribes into other groups of nations of people, what's the point of even having a people? You didn't, I mean, all that stuff. That's why, you know, we're considered to be the least desired, because if we weren't considered that way, we would not exist anymore. We will all be lighter skinned. We'll be mixed up because we all talking about one, you know, that one nation under God stuff comes from this country. That's Babylonianism. He said, is it possible that Abraham went south and a lot of those biblical places might have originally occurred in Africa and not the Middle East? Abraham's descendant. Middle East is part of Africa. Only thing is that they just tell you it's not. The Middle East is a part of Africa, and Africa's Shem's lot. The middle of the earth. Remember, Israel is not the only people of Shem. The Middle East is Israel's land, but Shem has land too. Their land is in Africa. We know that from the book of Jubilees. I speak on this, chapter 8 through 10. It tells us also, Josephus, he tells us, go to my Table of Nations video. Josephus tells us that Abraham's grandson his name is where Africa got its name, not Africanus. You see these names? You see how they do that? Scipio Africanus is where Africa received its name? No. Scipio Africanus is not where Africa received its name. It received its name from Abraham's great-grandson, Aphir, according to Josephus. America did not get its name from Amerigo Vespucci. No, it got its name from the Amaru Khan. America, from the Amorite, from the plum serpent, the plum feather serpent, who they called Quetzalcoatl, who they call Kukulkan. Okay, we know those names are all worshipped here in this country, Kukulkan, and guess what? Amaru Khan. You don't probably know that variation of it, but Amaru Khan, Kukulkan, and Quetzalcoatl is the deity that they all worshipped here. And guess what? That's where the name of America came from, the Amaru, which is the Amaru Khan. I do a video on all that too. Just go check it out. See you Monday, Curly Girl. Most High bless. All right, guys. You say she's spitting. Hey, get me started. But all right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. This was a midday live. Something to listen to while you're at work. On your way to get the kids, on your way home from work. If you haven't watched it, please, again, play the playback, watch from the beginning. You said we'll watch the Table of Nations video and tune in. Yes, watch the Table of Nations. That's a good start. Like I said, I'll be back on Monday. I got the Marduk video. We're going to be talking about the name Caesarea Borgia myth. And yeah, so all right. Most High bless, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you all soon.